Hello and welcome, students, to another episode of History at Home. In today's episode, we'll be looking at some different Paleolithic art and sculptures that we did not get a chance to look at together in class. Before we get to that, let's talk about what we did discuss in class during the past week. We know hunters and gatherers had two ways of obtaining food. Two ways hunters and gatherers could simply hunt their food, and the best way to hunt during this time period is by fishing. Reasons for that is because fishing is very low effort. It doesn't take a lot of time or energy in order to catch your prey. During this time period as well, humans could also persistence hunt. This is when a hunter or a group of hunters literally chase their prey until it is exhausted. The prey would then collapse from exhaustion, and then humans would move in for the kill. The problem with this, however, is that it's very high energy. It takes a lot of time, effort, blood, and sweat in order for you to catch your prey, and sometimes you're even unsuccessful in that. The reason why humans are able to persistence hunt is because they have a few key advantages over their prey. One advantage is that humans are bipedal, and that means that you can walk on two legs, whereas most other animals are quadpedal, meaning they walk on all four legs. Being bipedal is more energy efficient. You can go over longer distances because you're walking on two legs, and it also frees up your hands so that you can carry items like tools. You can also make these primitive water jugs. So here are a couple pictures. These are ostrich eggs that have been hollowed out and filled with water and then stuffed with grass in order to form kind of a seal. And then they were buried. So humans can kind of make these primitive water jugs and secure them all throughout the migratory patterns. And that way, during their hunt, if they get thirsty, they're able to replenish their fluids, whereas an animal that's being chased doesn't have that opportunity. Another thing is that humans can also sweat. So if you take your dog out for a walk on a hot summer's day, they start to pant. They'll stick out their tongue like you see this awesome dog doing, and they'll start to breathe very heavily. That's their way of cooling down their body. Humans, on the other hand, will sweat out body heat, cool down their body that way, and it's much more energy efficient. We could also, at this time period, get food by gathering or scavenging our food. Typically, men would do the hunts, whereas women would do the scavenging. And they would find things like wild fruits, wild vegetables, edible roots, edible grasses, birds' eggs, things like that in order to eat and fill up their stomach. We also talked about hunter-gatherer groups tend to max out at around 30 people. Simple reason, it's just too many people to feed if you have more than 30. Everyone in this small hunter gatherer group is also contributing to the overall survival and success of the group. Therefore, hunter gatherer groups tend to be egalitarian. That means everyone within that small tribe would have an equal status. And hunters and gatherers, finally, are also nomadic. They tend to construct very basic shelters, like you see in these two pictures to your left. They'll also hang out in natural dwellings like caves. They cannot build permanent settlements or eventually down the line cities, which we'll talk about soon because of this. So let's get into the topic for today, Paleolithic art and sculptures. Clear distinctions between these two historical time periods. The Paleolithic time period goes from 2.6 million years ago all the way up to 10,000 BCE. At that point in time, 10,000 BCE, historians draw the line between the Paleolithic age and a new age known as the Neolithic age. The Neolithic age will go from 10,000 BCE until around 4,500 BCE. The reason or the discovery that kind of separates the two is at 10,000 BCE, humans discover agriculture, and this is kind of a new era in human existence. The word Paleolithic is a compound word. It means old stone. So this is what is referred to also as the Old Stone Age. And Neolithic, neo means new, lithic means stone, is the New Stone Age. This is our new way of life with the discovery of agriculture. And the lifestyle of Paleolithic people used very simple tools and weapons made from stone. During the Neolithic era, when we have agriculture, we can start forming permanent settlements and inventing better, sharper, stronger tools. So at that time period, humans are experimenting with earth. They can make clay pottery, and they also find out how to extract copper from stone, and they start to make copper tools and weapons. During the Paleolithic age, we discussed Humans were hunters and gatherers, therefore they were also nomadic. During the Neolithic era, humans can set down their roots in a permanent location because they have agriculture, they know exactly where food will be, and they can start constructing towns, villages, and cities. So we're going to look at a very famous site for Paleolithic art and sculptures, and this is called the Blombos Cave, which is located in South Africa. And right here is the actual cave. It might be tough to see. Here's a picture at night. You can see right here is the cave itself. And in this cave, we find one of the oldest examples of human art ever. This is the Blombos engraved ochre. Ochre is a type of clay, and it was discovered very recently in 2002 CE. And when they dated this object, they found it to be over 75,000 years old. So this is dated to around 75,000 BCE. It is one of the earliest works of human art ever discovered. And what it contains is very simple geometric engravings. It was grinded or sculpted into this ochre, this clay, and we don't know the meaning of it. It's very, very mysterious. We can't tell the significance or meaning behind it, but we know it was certainly made by humans because you don't see these type of wear patterns existing out in nature. So this is arguably one of the oldest existing pieces of art in human history. At the same site or close to the same site, within the Blombos Cave, we find these shells called Nassarius shells. Again, from around this time period, 75,000 BCE. And we found over 70 shells. And we can tell that these were used for jewelry. We can tell this because they all are uniform size, they're all uniformed colors, and they all have this drill hole in roughly the same exact location. Because of these items, we know it was not made by nature. We know these shells were purposely drilled by humans, and they were most likely strung up across or through a piece of cordage like this that you see here and molded into a necklace. So the meaning behind this, the Nassarius shells, is that it was most likely used for jewelry. Another very famous artifact from hunters and gatherers is known as the Venus of Willendorf sculpture. It was found in 1908 CE in Austria, which is right here in Europe. And the Venus statue was sculpted around 23,000 BCE. We named the statue after the Greek goddess of love named Venus, but we don't really know the meaning again of this sculpture. We think it might have been a fertility statue. It's very tiny. It can fit into the palm of your hand, but we can see some exaggerated body parts. We don't see a face on this statue. It's lacking a face. It's lacking arms. It is lacking feet as well, but it does have reproductive parts exaggerated within the sculpture. So we think it was a fertility statue. But again, the meaning is hard to figure out with these sculptures and pieces of artwork. Another very famous piece of Paleolithic art is called the Apollo 11 stones. They were found in 1969 CE in Namibia, Africa, and they were named after the Apollo 11 mission, which was the first to land on the moon, which happened in 1969 CE. So right down here, close to South Africa, is where we found these stones, and they were found within this cave that you see pictured here. We found them to be around 25,000 years old. And when we look at this stone, we try to identify the subject and the action. And it's a little tough to identify the subject. It's definitely an animal. It could be a cat, maybe an antelope. The action, maybe it's running, maybe it's out on a hunt. Again, a very mysterious piece of artwork or work. We don't have the meaning. We don't have the written language to help back up our understanding of that. Finally, we discussed Lascaux together in class. It's located in France, which again is part of Europe. It was discovered in 1940 CE by 4 teenagers and their dog. And the pictures or paintings within the Lascaux cave are dated to be around 17,000 years old. The collection of paintings, around 2,000 of them in total. We don't know the significance, the reason why the people chose to paint in this location and why they chose these subjects. Maybe it's telling us a story or individual stories within the cave. And here's a very famous piece of art from the cave itself. If we look at the subjects, we think this picture is telling us a story. If we look at the subjects, we can identify two very clearly. We can see a bison, and we know he's scared. You can see the hair up here standing on end. And a very mysterious humanoid. Kind of a human, not quite a human. It's kind of a blending between an animal and a human. It looks human, but it's not fully human. And we can see the actions within this image as well. We can see the bull is charging, the head is lowered, the tail is raised. The human might have been hunting it. We can see down here what might be the guts of the bison with a spear kind of impaled through him and the end of the spear broken off here. So we got a couple possible meanings here. Maybe this is showing us a hunting accident in which a bison killed a human. Maybe the humanoid is wearing some type of ceremonial bird mask. And again, a mysterious bird down here. So this might have been just like a ceremonial hunting mask. Maybe it shows someone's nightmare, which is a fascinating idea because this could be the first recorded dream in human history. So a quick summary for you. Hunters and gatherers lived simple yet brutal lives. They were nomadic. It could be difficult to find food and also very dangerous to find food. But they did have more free time than modern day humans, on average about 2 more hours per day. And with this extra time, they express their inner emotions by creating artwork. Sometimes it's very basic expressions like this piece of ochre that we found in the Blombos Cave, all the way to more extravagant paintings like we find in Lascaux. And what I want you to take away is that this is definitely a unique human experience. No other animal before or since spends more time, energy, and money to create artwork. We have buildings like the Louvre in France completely devoted to artwork. We have maybe the most famous painting of all time done within the last 400 years. Painting, artwork, and sculptures are all very unique human experience. And we do not see this expressed by any other animal quite to the degree that we do as humans. All right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.